It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. This is B Block, Bravo Block as we call it. The date is February 7th, 2025, and we start this at about 7:22. Hey, by the way, John, you probably already know this. Did you know that Tim Brinker is resigning from the county executive in Franklin County?
I think I read that on the website last weekend, yeah.
Oh, you already knew about that then. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
That's old news. Okay. Things for Brad to talk about this morning. First off, last night, a car fire on 170. This car fire was going pretty good, going the opposite direction I was going at the time. So I grabbed my phone, 911. I'm in St. Louis County, and I think actually I was in either Charlotte or Overland at the time. But they don't have their own dispatchers anymore. It's all St. Louis County. The phone rang for a good minute and a half before somebody answered, and I gave them the thing in the car fire. And they told me, they said, "Is this Brad Hildebrand?" I go, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, is it really true that the guy you're on the radio with, John Combest, has never, ever placed a 911 call?" And I go, "Can you believe that?" And they go, "Wow, we've got his number flagged so that if he ever needs us, if he ever really needs us, somebody breaks into his house, we're just going to say, John, we know that's a fake call because we know it's not really John Combest calling. It's somebody who's spoofing his number because of the fact that John would never call 911, even if he needed an ambulance or a fire truck or the police or anything like that. He'd never call it." I say, you know what? Sounds good to me. So we hung up.
Yeah, the only hole in that story, Brad, is that you're suggesting that a government agency would work efficiently and with common sense. So that's the only problem with that tale.
Okay, Ricky Schroeder, a.k.a. what's his name again?
Nick Schroer.
Okay. Ricky,
not the guy from Silver Spoons, the guy from Defiance Spoons.
Right. Ricky Schroeder, the guy who used to live in some lady's basement. Ricky Schroeder has got a bill. You know about this already, right? Because you know all this stuff, right? You know his bill.
Well, he probably has 20 bills, Brad. Which one is this?
This is the one to essentially outlaw April elections, to move all the elections, because he's claiming that that's when you have the school board elections, and he's claiming that the NEA, pays all their members to go vote in April. And matter of fact,
and it would be more. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're saying there'd be more. He's saying it'd be more efficient to move them to August.
Right. Well, and when you think about that, it's to the point where if you're a business and you look at this from the aspect of, okay, when's our highest traffic period? I mean, there's not much turnout any April election. I mean, maybe there might be in the city. I don't even know if that's going to happen. I mean, I still say, I'm the guy that makes strange predictions. I still say Tashara Jones is going to get reelected, even though the polling says not. But I think there's going to be a bunch of people that show up on election day, because I think it's going to be one of these things where people are going to go, "Oh, there's no way she's going to get reelected. I'm not even going to bother vote," and they're not going to go voting. And Tashara's going to get our buddies out, and she's going to get reelected. But anyway, Ricky Schroeder's trying to move the elections out of April so that the NEA can't essentially sandbag all the other conservatives and keep them from taking by the way, I'm doing my trademark weave as Trump would say. I can't remember which district I heard this about, but have you heard this third bathroom story?
No, I haven't.
In one of the high schools, it's here in the St. Louis area, in one of the high schools, there's been this movement for a third bathroom. In other words, not a male, not a female, but a what do you call that? A non-sexual bathroom?
A non-binary, or maybe asexual, non-binary? Maybe?
Well, the interesting thing about it is it's a single holer, okay, and it's got a locking door. And you know what's been happening in the single holer?
I don't know.
The locking door.
Do people go in there in intercourse?
Yes.
The non. I mean, isn't that why family bathrooms exist? To take a girl in there?
The non-sexual bathroom has become the sexual bathroom, which I think is sort of funny. Okay, Adam Schnelting. Okay, and I'm gonna say, hey, John, you know about Adam Schnelting's bill he's trying to put out?
No, Brad, remind us now who Adam Schnelting is.
Adam Schnelting is the new senator which covers. He's one of what are there 3 state senators for St. Charles County? Is it 3 or 4?
And your subtle beef with him. First of all, unlike a lot of people, you didn't know Adam Schnelting before, so you can't pretend to have an imaginary beef. He never calls me back. But a unique feature of your life is that you're good friends with Cindy Cristofanelli, whose son Phil was defeated in the Republican state Senate primary by Adam Schnelting,
Well,
right?
I've known who Adam Schnelting was. Matter of fact,
I didn't say you didn't know him, Brad. I'm saying that it's not like you were friends with him. You can't be like, oh, I was friends with him and now he doesn't return my calls.
I met him last week and he was very disrespectful to me. One of those things.
Yeah, right. Okay,
No.
get to your point about his
No,
bill.
seriously. I said hi to him and he didn't say hi back. One of those things. Okay.
This is the second time this week that we've experienced low self-esteem theater. The first was an imaginary Mark Cox slight that didn't exist. And now you're pretending that Adam Schnelting dissed you.
I am Brad the hater, according to Mark Cox. I mean, I'm one of the haters, according to more. And see, I say
Schnelting story.
I say nothing but good things about Mark Cox. Okay, Adam Schnelting, and see, you can tell two things about this situation. He's passing this bill about left lanes on the interstate. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know this. What's the rule here?
He's got some goofy new rule that you can't sit in the left lane, that if you sit in the left lane, you're not going 150 miles an hour, that they're going to throw you in jail and not feed you for 2 weeks or something like that. Okay, there's two things that I have a problem with. Okay, if someone is trying to pass legislation, typically about something that has happened to them. So what does this tell us? This tells us this Adam Schnelting must be one of these guys that passes me at the highway at 110 miles an hour. And if you're in the left lane doing 90, he's going to be sitting behind you, blinking his high beams at you. Get out of the left lane. I'm trying to get to Jeff City. Get what I'm saying? So
I do. So Shelley Barr, I guess, went to him with this, right?
Right. I think Shelley is one of the co-sponsors, even though she's not in the Senate.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other interesting thing about this is, in his bill, he is going to change this. If his bill passes, you would essentially if you're caught in the left lane doing under 100 miles an hour, you're going to be deported to Gitmo. And the second,
I like it. Yeah.
Right. The second part of his bill is that he is going to change the name of left lane to inside lane because he doesn't want to refer to anything in the government as being left. So it's going to be the inside lane.
I like that. I like that wacky. Now, where did you read about this? I must have missed the story. What news outlet had this?
I've heard it a couple of different places. This is some bill he's got. I'll look it up. I'll see if I can find it for you. But
I don't need you to look it up. And if you send it to me, I won't read it. I'm just wondering if there has been a news story about it that I missed, because if it was in an actual newspaper, if it's just something you heard punching buttons, as you like to say, on the radio, then I won't go searching for it. But if there was a news story, I would certainly link to it.
I've heard it twice. Now, well, it's got to be on a website somewhere. Everything's on the website. I mean,
Okay.
For example, there's a scorecard that, I don't know if you know about this, but there's a scorecard that's being kept in Jefferson City of 911 calls, and Brad's up to 8,652. and John,
and it gave me a 0 grade. It said I failed to participate.
It didn't give you a 0. It gave you a
0.0.
I've thrown up those lollipops, and sometimes you miss them. Okay, yesterday, this is going to gross out some people. Okay, thanks, the smartest woman in the world. See, I've got good people. John turns me on to an excellent dentist. And by the way, your dentist is excellent, and I'm their patient for life. Yeah,
he's a gem.
They're great. Okay. The smartest woman in the world turned me on to the ENT because I say I have a feather stuck in my throat. Okay, so I called this, and this was like earlier in the week, and I'm like Mr. Procrastinator. So finally I call yesterday, and they say, well, we can make an appointment with you, but we have a walk-in clinic. And I'm not going to say who this is, because of the fact that, they won't advertise with me anyway. But anyway, I show up at the walk-in clinic, and I'm driving right by it. I'll give you a hint. It's in the West County area off of Manchester and 270. Okay, and I'm driving right by, talking to the lady on the phone. And she says, well, the only problem is we're closed right now from noon to 12:30 for lunch. I said, okay, fine. So I came back in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock. And I walk in, filled out the most lengthy new patient survey I've ever had in my life, which to the point where I had to essentially measure my toenails and give them, statistics on, if I've trimmed my toenails in the last 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, which you haven't, because you're old and you can't reach them. Go ahead.
I can't reach them. You're exactly right. So finally, I get through. And within about 20 minutes, I'm ushered into a room, and a nice lady comes in, and first off, she tells me what's going to happen, and then the doctor comes in and does a very thorough examination of my ears. They want to check my ears first, and then they looked up my nose, then they shot some stuff up my nose, and then the unpleasant thing of they pull out this instrument that has like this long, I don't know what you call it, like a long tube that's maybe like 2 feet long. Guess where that's going, John? It's going up
I'm guessing down the top end.
Up my nose, into my throat. Okay.
Oh, Brad.
And this is like some kind of a scope. They've got like a viewer on the end of it. It's like a camera with a long like if you've seen these things, it's like a pencil kind of, but it's a real small microphone. Matter of fact, they use them in a lot of industry. The car guys use them. They look inside engines with these things. Okay, so they numb me up a little bit, and then the thing goes into my right nostril, and I've got this crazy thing, which I've got this deviated septum, and part of the fact is, thank you, Blake, my middle son broke my nose years ago. Crazy weird story how he broke my nose, and my nose is, if you look at it, it's a little bit crooked, but the bones didn't heal up right, so she couldn't get it down my right nostril, and I was like, "Arr!" And so she finally gets it down my left nostril, and this is what's funny, okay? With this thing up my nose, down into my throat, she has me do a series of things where I do things like, she says, I want you to hum for me. And I go, hum? And she goes, yes. So I hum for like 30 seconds. And then she says, I want you to say EO or something like that. I go, and she says, keep saying it, EO, EO, EO. And then she says, I'm thinking to myself, am I being punked? Is there like a hidden camera in this room? Is this going to be like on somebody's webcast or something like that? This is going to be on a YouTube video of like, hey, you won't believe what happened at the ENT's office. And then she gives me a couple other things. And she slowly pulls this thing back out and she says, I don't see anything. And she says, it looks a little sore down in your throat. She says, but other than that, I don't see anything. I don't see obstructions. I don't see a feather or anything. I don't see anything in your throat. I said, okay, fine. So she gives me a prescription for something that I'm supposed to, and I got filled last night. I go supposed to pick it up today, where I'm supposed to gargle with it like twice a day for a week, which is supposedly going to clear my sore throat up or something like that. So anyway.
So have you noticed yourself feeling that tickle in your throat or not? So in the last day.
Oh yeah. I still feel it. Yeah. It's weird, okay. and see, the crazy thing about this is, I shouldn't tell this story, but back in June I did have pneumonia. Okay, and I went to the hospital for something else, and they took a chest X-ray, and they have pneumonia. But I have been pumped and prodded and CAT scanned and all the other different scans and EKG'd and stuff like that in the last year. I know I don't have any problems with my lungs because of the fact that my lungs have been irradiated many times, but I don't know what this goofy cough is. The other morning I had a hell of a, matter of fact, here we go again. Hold on a minute. I'm turning the microphone off so I won't bother people. Okay, I don't know what it is. So it's not. It's maybe when I use this gargle, whatever she gave me, I was supposed to pick up at the pharmacist, it'll go away. Okay, next thing, post office. Okay, one of my packages showed up yesterday. One of them showed up yesterday. Nice,
congratulations. One of the ones that you now you were tracking this a couple days ago. You talked about this on the air 2 days ago.
Yes, one of my packages showed up at the post office. It showed up at my doorstep yesterday. This originally was mailed. And once again, this is not expensive stuff. This is essentially sort of cheap junk that I'm buying on eBay for the radio station here. This particular thing is a label printer that I use to like mark wires with, like when
label
you're wiring
wires and stuff.
Yeah, label wires and stuff like that. And it's an old used one because I've had the same one for like 20 years, and it's starting to act up, and sometimes it prints and sometimes it doesn't. So I bought essentially the exact same one on eBay. I think I paid $52 for it. And originally they're like $300 or $400. It's an industrial kind of label maker. Okay, it showed up yesterday. It left Pennsylvania on January 28th. It hit St. Louis on the 31st, which is Friday, and from Friday of last week till yesterday, it bounced around St. Louis. It went from the sorting facility, the 63046, the 63042, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, the second package, which is also, once again, not that expensive, probably I think I paid $40 for that. It's more parts for the transmitter. The second one, which essentially did the same thing, and the bizarre part of that one was, it showed up at my local post office because it says at your, blah, 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 zip code post office will be out for delivery. And it went out for delivery 2 days. Then it magically appeared back at the sorting facility. And it hasn't moved since. Let me look at it again real quick here. It hasn't moved since. Here it is right here. I think it hasn't moved since the 4th, which was what? The 4th was Wednesday? No, 4th was Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
4th was Tuesday. Okay, so let me double check it here one more time. There it is right there. Okay, there it is. Okay, I'll do the and it showed as here's the thing in this. It bounced around. It showed up in St. Louis, and on the 29th of January, it's the 63046 sorting facility, package sorting. Then it went to my local post office on the 31st, out for delivery on the 1st, and then it was scanned on the 4th. It's back at the 63046 package sorting center, and it hasn't been seen since the 4th. So there's no new scans on it. And I'm going like, this is the third thing, the thing I talked about, which I got just last week, February 1st, a week ago tomorrow, that had been sent to me from a guy in New Jersey. And once again, not an expensive thing. That was a tool case for this tool I have that I don't want to beat up, something I use all the time and I throw in my car and I don't want to beat it up. So I bought this case for it. I think the case was like used case. The case is like 30 years old. I think I paid $52 or something for that. That was mailed on December 26th, the day after Christmas. I got it Monday, and the crazy thing was, no, I got it Friday, or a week ago Saturday, February 1st. And the crazy thing on that one is that one, from New Jersey to St. Louis was 3 days, and then for over a month, it just bounced around in St. Louis. I mean, what is going on with the Postal Service?
Can you imagine if you went to the location where your package is sitting and just walked in and said, hey, my name's Brad Hildebrand. Here's my ID. Here's the tracking number. Can I get my package? Can you imagine the runaround you would get for asking for something that simple?
Well,
like you would be told, actually, we can't go do that. And they're probably right. There's probably an ordinance that says they can't go back there and fetch it for you.
Well, I don't even know where the 63046 sorting facility is. Okay, once upon a time, and this is Brad going way back in history, there used to be a really nice post office on the east end of the airport, the 63145 post office, okay? There were this is interesting because nobody lived in the 63145 zip code. There were two places where they had the 63145 zip code. Back in the day, there used to actually be a post office in the terminal at the airport. Did you know this? There was actually a post office?
I did know that.
Right, and then the 63145 post office was on the east side. Matter of fact, it was interesting because it was right next to the east terminal. And the interesting thing about the 63145 post office was the counter was open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you could go in there and buy stamps, okay? And the reason it was open around the clock was this was the facility that when stuff came off the plane, since literally their back door was the tarmac of the airport, they took all the stuff off the plane and it processed through that post office. Matter of fact, I told you this story before, which I told somebody recently, they didn't believe me, that if you went during the spring, when you went to like inside the post office, you heard all these little baby chicks in the background because, believe it or not, the Postal Service is one of the few carriers that will actually ship live animals. And there are all these chicken farms that raise these baby chicks, and during Easter, they sell these chicks all over the country. So you go into the 63145 zip code or the post office, and you'd hear the baby chicks just chirping away in the background. Well, it closed because guess who owned the property?
I have no idea.
The city of St. Louis. And as the
lady, yeah, they own the airport area.
Right. And as the lady who was the postmaster there, who I got to be friends with, she was a very nice lady, she told me that they were going to double their rent. Their lease came up and they're going to double the rent. So not only did they close the post office, they tore it down. It's not even there anymore. As a matter of fact, if you know where I'm talking about, if you know, they call it Air Cargo Road. If you go back to the Air Cargo thing on the south side of the airport, where all the taxi cabs line up, that used to be where the post office is. As a matter of fact, now it's a parking lot for the airport. It's a short-term $20 parking lot. And that was really efficient because there's a lot of stuff that travels as baggage on scheduled airlines. A lot of people don't realize that, but a lot of the Postal Service stuff moves on the scheduled airlines. And matter of fact, can I, you know what, I'll save this to C Block. Can I tell you my nerdo story about FedEx and the Postal Service?
I'd love to hear it, yeah.
Okay, this is sort of an inside baseball kind of story, and this goes back to 9/11. And the interesting story of this is when a privately held company, actually a publicly traded company, but privately, is publicly held and privately held, is that the same thing or is that different? They're different, aren't they? If it's a public company,
Yeah, if it's publicly traded, yeah, that'd probably be the best way to call it. Publicly traded and then privately held.
But it's still a private company. It's not a government-owned company, correct?
Which one?
I mean, the FedEx.
No, FedEx is. I own shares in FedEx.
Well, I mean, but in other words, it's not the government does anything to do with it. Okay, it's
correct. You're right. It's a publicly traded company. It's not a government. It's not a public entity.
But it would be.
I see what you're saying. The demarcation between it. It's not a government agency. You're
but
right.
Would it be safe to call it private sector? Would that be the proper?
Yeah,
way?
private sector, publicly traded. Sure.
Okay, private sector, publicly traded. Okay, I'll tell the story next break about the alliance between the United States Postal Service and FedEx, which is sort of interesting. Okay, am I nerding out for you too much, John?
No, it's great, Brad. Hey, you know what? On things like KDHX, where else are people going to get a deep dive? Now, if you start getting into the P-51 Mustang, Brad, then I'm going to throw a flag.
Do you know
stuff like this? The deep dives are great.
Do you know the D models of the P-51 were the favorite models because they had a different cockpit where the pilot could see around in back
Brad,
of them?
What a week we've had. I love you, Brad.
Okay.